All right.
Yeah.
From the coaches that are on the hot seat to coaches that are facing, real job pressure this year, I would like to submit a coach that I do not believe is on the hot seat, but the tailgate was rocking and rolling. Our good friend Preston. How can it be anyone other than Ryan Day? And I think that given the roster, the expectations, not only in terms of win total, but just in terms of like, hey, you just lost 3 straight times to Michigan. That cannot happen. And Ohio State being the sort of juggernaut, powerful juggernaut that it is, where, you mentioned, who's Arkansas going to go get? Who's Ohio State going to go get?
Anybody they want.
Whoever they want.
Especially now that Ohio State is spending.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ryan Day, Ryan Day is under real pressure, real job pressure right now in 2024, right?
If you're an Ohio State fan or booster, the only acceptable loss for Ryan Day would be to Georgia, correct? Like if I'm an Ohio State fan.
Oh, wait, you mean like in the playoff? Like you're just
correct. Like if I'm an Ohio State fan with what they've spent, with who they have coming back, with what they did in the transfer portal, if you lose to anybody not named Georgia, I am freaking furious.
On the road, or
probably should be.
Yeah, in Autzen Stadium on October 12th. You're telling me that if they lose that game, then you're going to be furious.
I think I'm mad if I'm an Ohio State fan. Yeah. I didn't say they're rational.
No. I mean, that was the original instant reaction conversation when Tom and I got on here at like 11:30 at night after the loss to Michigan. We were like, we think Ryan Day is on the hot seat. And Bud's like, what? This guy has lost 4 games as an Ohio State head coach.
And they're all to like the eventual national champion or like a national runner-up.
Right.
Yeah.
But could it be similar to the year they lost in the playoffs to Georgia when they lost to Michigan, got in, lost close to Georgia, where if they got in, won a couple, playoff games, made a run, and then lost to Georgia or somebody else in the playoff, that it would salvage it?
No. If you lose to Michigan, you better win it.
Oh, yeah. Michigan, I was assuming the Oregon was the loss.
Oh yeah, that'd be fine. I think that this is where Ryan Day is probably benefited from the expanded playoff, because Ohio State will enter that bracket with one of the 2 most talented rosters. No matter what seed they are going to be favorites against almost everybody they play. And so even if you've got that disappointment earlier in the season, you've got a chance to not only right it, but write it a couple times over on a deep run.
But Morgan L in the chat is encapsulating this sentiment perfectly. You're Ohio State and spent the bank on NIL. You lose in Autzen to 0 title Oregon. Assume they're packing your office. Now, granted, Ryan Day will not get fired if they fail to win a national title. I'm just saying from the perspective of boosters and fans, this is the level of talent they've assembled. A lot of their opponents lost quite a bit, including obviously Michigan, which lost almost its entire offense. I think if you're Ryan Day, you better at least win the Big Ten and win a playoff game, right? Like that's like you better make the Final Four and you better win the Big Ten. If you lose at Autzen, but you come back and you get the revenge game in Indianapolis, and you go and you win a playoff game, I think a lot of your important boosters would understand. Anything short of that, though, I think they're really pissed.
The other unique aspect to this is, remember, they had the big fundraising push just for the NIL. So people give their money, they're going to be even more emotional. Hey, we bought this roster. We need to see the results of it. This isn't that different. Didn't we have this discussion kind of last year?
With Ryan Day?
Yeah.
I don't think they were spending like this last year.
Right.
This is different.
I think that by mid-season, we looked at Ohio State and we knew that it was an imperfect roster, if only like imperfect offensively. We thought defensively they had like tightened everything up, but we just knew that the luxury that was CJ Stroud, who he did not win a national championship, but he was one of those 2 years were some of the most prolific single seasons in Big Ten history. And then we get Kyle McCord. You got an offensive line that's having a lot of trouble. Things just aren't really clicking. So I think that the expectations for what Ryan Day could do with that team changed once was the Notre Dame game week 4 or week 3.
I thought it was earlier than that. Maybe it's 3. Yeah.
Okay. I think after the Notre Dame game was when I said, okay, well, we need to adjust what we've got here, but not when you go and you spend like they spent. And that's not just from the portal, but that's keeping guys around as well. This is a season of significant pressure for Ryan Day, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. Do you want me to just keep rolling, or do y'all want to?
Yeah. Oh no, I sorry. I was.
I had 3. I had 3 in our hot seat. Remember we talked Pittman, Napier, Aranda. I thought they were clearly in their own tier, and I had 3 in this tier with Ryan Day. Ryan Day, Mario Cristobal, and Lincoln Riley. I had those 3 in a tier by themselves. Maybe Lincoln gets a little bit of leeway, but I mean, and their win total is not great.
7.
Yeah. So like if he's below that or at it, I think there's some USC fans starting to get a little bit frustrated and a little bit, antsy. And then Mario speaks for itself. We've talked a lot about that on here at Miami and how desperately they need to step up and have that big year, especially we're talking about spending money. They go out and buy the quarterback, beat everybody in that bidding auction. They get the running back, Damian Martinez. Like they have gone out and spent the money. It's time for him to show it too.
They're on that Oregon, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Miami, and Texas level of spending tier, I believe,
for this season. Like just like based on the investment that has gone into the 2024 roster.
They're one of the all-in teams for sure. I'll give you another one.
Yeah.
Brent Venables. Their win total's like 7. They go 7-5. Do you want to let Venables coach Arnold for his potential last year at Oklahoma, or do you want to start it over? I don't know. I think he'll probably get 4 years, but I think he's under pressure for sure. I mean, you're not going to have the talent advantage that you do in the Big 12 in most of these games.
For Brent, there's been a lot of commentary for Brent Venables. I thought Brent Venables greatly improved the perception of how good of a head coach he could be with the jump from year 1 to year 2. I thought that was a big improvement. And when you've got the offense, you lose your offensive coordinator to go be Jeff Lebby to go be the head coach of Mississippi State. What does he do? They keep the system together. Seth Luttrell gets promoted from being an off-field to being an on-field. Just sort of the brain trust stays the same, which tells me that Brent Venables is doing what I think is a smart thing, which is I know defense. I'm going to hire this crew. Y'all do your thing. I don't see Brent. How about this? I don't see Brent Venables coaching like a defensive coordinator. Do y'all? Oklahoma was one of the fastest teams in the country. No defensive coordinator is going to endorse let's run more plays.
That's fair. No, he's not. No, he's not doing the Muschamp stuff at all. I mean, they had a pretty easy schedule last year, which was part of the improvement. I don't know. We'll see. How does it look? How does Arnold look? I'm inclined to believe that they will let Venables sink or swim with Arnold.
I don't think he's under pressure yet. And I do think you watch the reaction from Oklahoma fans to the 7.5 win total. And that, there was one in the chat in here says that's disrespectful. I think that's the mentality of most Oklahoma fans. I can't believe this is where we are. There's no way we're going to go 7-5. If they do, then it's another reality. Then all of a sudden it's, well, why are you 7-5? And I also think it doesn't help that Texas is in there. And if Texas meets their expectations, then again, that's a rivalry between these two.
They beat Texas. Acknowledge it. It happened. Texas also crushed its Big 12 opponents for the most part, with the exception of when Ewers was out, right?
Yep.
Oklahoma 20-6 against Cincinnati is a bad result. Okay. Beating UCF by 2, it's not a good result in Norman. Okay. And they lose at Kansas. They lose at Oklahoma State. They did crush West Virginia. All right. They played a disturbingly close game against BYU's backup. They won by a touchdown. They give up 45 to TCU. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not saying I'm on the under, certainly. If it gets bet up to 8, I'd hit under pretty good. But I don't know. We'll see. I think if they do go 7-5, the pressure on him next year, like he will be in that Napier Pittman category.
Yeah.
This time next year, if they do go 7-5.
Going back to the Lincoln Riley, but do you think that USC has the movers, the shakers, the desire, the boosters, like is there an infrastructure? Is there a machine there that could say, you tried to fix the defense, you tried to do this, the results are the same, and life is getting harder. I mean, is there that kind of is there that desire at USC to be able to move on from Lincoln Riley?
I don't know. I mean, we've heard about how much better their NIL was, and then they go out and they get goose egged in the transfer portal to bring in the D lineman that they really needed. So I don't know what to believe there. Do they have the money to do it? Do they have the desire to do it? I don't know. 7-5 is not going to sit well,
right?
Like that's very obvious. And if your win total 7 flat, it does bring in the possibility that you just straight up miss a bowl, which I don't think will happen. I think USC has too much talent for that. I think Lincoln Riley is still a really good offensive coach, but he's more OC than Brent Venables is DC right now as a head coach. Like at least Venables allows the offense to play. Lincoln Riley so far, his teams have been super soft. They don't play a lick of defense. So
what's the total on the USC LSU game? It's got to be up there, right? I mean, this could be a track meet.
Like 65.
Is it?
I mean, I don't
have it out yet.
But
yeah, I was gonna say I think we're just on point spreads. Oh no, we got some totals.
Oh boy.
Let's see. LSU, Alabama. No, which I don't think that one's up yet. At least not.
Is Lincoln Riley's buyout public?
Oh,
no, because USC is a private school.
Right. I didn't think so.
It is up, and I mean, shocker. Bud Elliott handicapped a game off the top of his head, came within a single point. Over at FanDuel Sportsbook, make every moment more. You can bet on the over/under of 66.5 on LSU and USC September 1st showdown. So, hey, great job right there. Game's in Vegas too.
Yeah.
Ooh,
fast track there where the Raiders play.
Fast track. Yeah. Let's go. That thing's hitting 70. Okay.
A couple more guys here. Matt Rule's not under any job pressure. I do think he's under pressure to comfortably make a bowl game. Sharon Moore is under pressure to not have the wheels fall off. That's really the only pressure, I think.
I've got Kalen DeBoer on that list too.
No doubt.
I think there is real pressure on Kalen DeBoer that he will not feel until the first loss. And I believe Alabama will take one loss and maybe more losses. Again, the way that I've been cooking this up in my head is that you've got this narrative of the vibe shift, right? We're playing music, everything's cool, the assistants are available to the media, so the media loves it, and we're telling you how great this new vibe is. And the second that the results from the new vibe don't match the results from the old vibe,
why are we playing music at practice?
Nobody's focused. Yeah. 100%.
But I think that it is likely that Alabama will win a game, and I think that the pressure will be felt.
Brian Kelly,
that happens. Brian Kelly?
I kind of think so.
Brian Kelly does this thing where sometimes he does it to himself. I don't know how much of his. I don't think there'll be enough of a drop off in on-field results to justify actually, hot seating him. He could quote his way into just being like somebody that we're all pointing at, and talking about. But I don't think that would lead to a change in actual employment.
Marcus Freeman. I think there is real pressure to make the playoff.
And their win total's high, so the expectation is to get there too.
Like you better go 10-2. If you go 8-4, I think that the Notre Dame's fan base is justifiably pretty pissed.
That would be fair.
Yeah, but that's not that's not lose your job pressure. It's just pressure to perform. Which
again, sometimes I find a little bit interesting. So this one from Richard, who's in the tailgate a lot. A Clemson, and this is Richard speaking, not me, a Clemson fan's perspective, Dabo, all caps, you're under immense pressure. I will offer, I do not think Dabo is under pressure.
Like, you mean hot seat job pressure? Or, like, can anybody tell him what to do? I don't know. Probably not.
So, all right, what do we have? We had Dan Radakovich leaves Clemson, goes to become the new athletic director at Miami. They promote internally. Graham Neff is the new, not new, I guess he's been there a couple years now at this point, but Graham Neff is the athletic director at Clemson. And his promotion and keeping the gang together because Radakovich was there for the rise, it would probably take a change in administrative leadership for somebody to come knocking on Dabo's door and Dabo not feel like he's got the upper hand in the conversation. Is that fair?
Agreed. Or if assistant coaches left for jobs that Clemson boosters and power people would correctly perceive as lesser jobs. Like if Garrett Riley's like, screw this no transfer policy stuff, I'm out. I'm going to go back and take a job, as the Baylor OC or something like that. His comments over the weekend were interesting. Most of these guys in the portal aren't good enough to play for Clemson. That's correct. They're not. There are some guys though. Like if Clemson has Keon Coleman last year, they walk Florida State off the field. That game's probably not close, right? It's not that most of the guys cannot play for Clemson. That's true. But there are a couple who definitely could that just didn't.
I mean, if we'd slid protection or put in a chip block on Kalen DeLoach,
Right.
Yeah.
it's a Clemson win right there. But
his three categories that he had for why he doesn't, the portal didn't work out. One, he said they aren't good enough. Two, he said there's players in there who already know where they're going to go. So he said those were off limits. And he said the other ones were the players who just wanted to see what their market value was. And he said, I don't want those type of players, which that's the hard category that I think he's struggling with in today's football landscape. Because what's wrong with testing the market?
Didn't he just go get a hotshot coordinator, by the way, that everybody knew was going to Clemson?
Yeah.
Like before it was announced? Isn't that sort of the whole, already know where they're going before they're in the portal type thing, just for coaches, but doesn't apply to players? It's pretty common.
I still can't believe he hasn't taken one. I mean, it's just so stubborn. The pressure, I do like, does the pressure come? Because he's not going to cave to, media pressure. I don't think he's it does have to come from somebody administration, right?
Yeah, because even what happened when a fan teed off on him just last season?
Right.
Hold on, what was it? Was it Paul?
Tyler.
Well, Tyler.
They did go undefeated since that call, though.
Tyler from Spartanburg.
Yes.
That was it.
Yep.
Yeah. So the fan base can't get to him because he's going to tee off on him. The media can't get to him. We've seen him do that since he railed on Clemsoning, all those years ago. No, it's only going to have to come from not only inside the house, but in the penthouse of inside the house. Other than that, I think he's pretty untouchable. Let's see. What would be did we give Mario Chris? We did. Let's play the Billy Napier game with Mario Cristobal. What's the unacceptable record for the Miami Hurricanes in 2024 that results in fans, administration, the Miami family starting to change their tone even against one of their own?
8-4.
Wow.
I mean, they play so many teams that don't spend any money in the portal and don't have any talent. Like this Miami schedule is really, really easy.
I had 7-5. I was thinking if 8-4, I don't think. I mean, you're frustrated, no doubt. I don't think 8-4 puts him a little bit closer to hot seat type talk.
Okay, find me the most acceptable 4-loss outcome if you're a Miami fan.
Florida State, and that's about as far as you can go when Miami's thinking of who they could lose to. There really are only two.
God. Okay. All right.
I told you it's really, really bad, man. I mean,
8-4 would even be a disappointment.
like they should be favored in all 12 games.
Yeah. This year really is setting up good for them.
I tell you what, Miami fan, I'm so sorry. I know so many Miami fans who love this podcast and listen to it. But playing in the Dome last week of the year, that's nightmare fuel right there.
Mhm.
It's not like the old Boston College game where you're going to be like, oh, they don't like the cold. I'm just saying, getting on that plane, flying up there, Thanksgiving weekend against
Already looking ahead to the ACC championship game, potentially, no
Fran,
matter where they are.
Yeah. Fran Brown's going to be in a position where he knows that if you want to go into the offseason with a statement, Kyle McCord's out there. Whew, watch out. Yeah. For those who don't have it pulled up, the non-conference schedule is, of course, Florida, game right at the beginning of the season. But then Florida A&M, Ball State, and USF in conference play. They do not play Clemson. They do play Florida State. And then you do not play NC State. You do play Virginia Tech. And you do play Louisville. You could maybe
on the road.
You could catch that loss. Wow. So we're asking Mario Cristobal, who is 12-13 as Miami's head coach, to go win 9 games, right?
I think they're asking him to win 11 or 12 games. Like with who they play and what they pay.
They have one double-digit win season as an ACC member, and they joined the league 20 years ago.
You fired Manny Diaz for going 8-4. You're spending, 2 or 3 times? If you think about roster spend and coaching staff spend, what you gave Manny Diaz, like you better be well over what Manny Diaz did. Which, by the way, you cannot lose that Duke game. Not that I think they will, certainly, but cannot lose to Manny at home.
You don't think that Manny has been thinking about that game like from the moment he got hired and looked at the schedule?
If there's a hangover situation, if I've ever seen one, you know who they play the week prior?
It's Florida State.
They do play Florida State.
Miami beats Florida State, loses to Duke, both at home.
That would be so ACC.
It'll be packed out for FSU.
Oh, yeah.
And it won't be for Duke.
I totally agree. Yeah, they'll have like 25,000 for Duke.
Do you think they'll have a good crowd for Virginia Tech? Because I think that's a tricky game.
It's a Friday night game, right?
I think it's a very
because they get the extra day of rest before traveling to Cal.
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes they had a good crowd for that UVA game that Brennan Armstrong like 3 years ago, right? That was a night game, like a weeknight.
It's really just like your 12 o'clock and 3:30 kickoffs against lower tier ACC opponents that just you got no chance.
Yeah, those bombs.
Right?
I mean, we were making fun of them last year for no showing senior day. Yeah, which was Louisville. Yeah,
and the last season the record wasn't as bad. I mean, you gave away the Georgia Tech game. If you win that one, maybe North Carolina flips the other way, and then all of a sudden they could have been a lot closer last year. So I think they're probably closer to getting it turned around than even we think. But a lot of that has to do with coaching.
Yeah. Also, if Cade Klubnik makes the right read, they lose to Clemson.
Right.
There was a lot. True. There was a lot that was just hanging on a razor's edge with Miami last year, and I think with the talent that they've got amassed, the hope is that that's not the case. All right. Any others that we want to throw on the pressure situation?
I'm all out there. I've got. Dan, you got any?
No, I had some of the Vegas ones though.
Yeah, some of these. If you miss a bowl game, are we sure you're safe? Type teams. I got a big list.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Clausen at Wake, Minnesota, Fleck, Bielema at Illinois, Sataki at BYU, Beamer, South Carolina, Narduzzi at Pitt, obviously Lee at Vanderbilt, Walters at Purdue, and we already talked about Tony Elliott at UVA. Like those are sort of the teams that Vegas is expecting to miss a bowl.
And will missing a bowl be acceptable?
Yeah.
I don't have a good beat on what Minnesota expects of PJ Fleck. but it seems to me, and this is coming off our coach ranking discussions last week, it seems to me that if Minnesota's 4-8, those tough conversations, like if Minnesota's 4-8, the the Tribune is pulling up the buyout, is like doing FOIA to pull the buyout numbers and figure out exactly what it is.
Because 4-8 is more than just losing to the East teams that you used to dodge.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. I think BLM Illinois is safe, but if you do miss a bowl, you're probably losing to Kansas again. I know Illinois fans don't want to lose to Kansas.
That's a cursed series.
Beamer at South Carolina. I mean, I don't know.
Easy, bud. Easy.
Did I share with you the I was doing some research. Do you know the last coach to be promoted out of the South Carolina head coaching job?
No, they've all either died or retired.
Yes, they either died, retired. Yeah, exactly.
Or fired.
Or fired.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. It's
now I'm not saying that nobody, because I actually stopped at World War II.
Right,
so
right.
To, like, go back and think about what might have happened before. But like, that's probably the most. You're taking the job to get totally rich. You have to say that you believe you can win there. If you have common sense, you know you can't win there under the current structure. Let's repeat every 4 or 5 years.
I think Beamer. I don't think Beamer could get a bottom falling out season. I think that Shane Beamer is the perfect head coach to avoid a bottom falling out season. Like I think you can give him a roster with inferior talent to most of the schedule, and I think he can go get you 4 or 5 wins. And when things come together and you've got enough difference makers, that's when you pop and you can roll out that bowl season, maybe go get that bowl win, finish at 7 or 8. But I think Beamer would be okay at 5 and 7.
The non-con is a cakewalk, and they get Vandy, and they get Mississippi State. No, but they do get 3 gimmies in the non-con plus Vandy. Not that Vandy's a gimme for South Carolina, but it's the closest thing in SEC play you can get.
Yeah, those win totals he mentioned. Wake Forest is at 4.5, Minnesota's at 5, Illinois at 5.5, BYU at 4.5, South Carolina at 5.5, Pitt at 5.5. I think Narduzzi would be okay.
I mean, he played for the title 3 years ago or 2 years ago.
They won the title in 21. Yeah. In 21.
So did Aranda at Baylor.
The only problem there is his very public comments about like kind of not liking offense. And then he was very wrong on that, firing Whipple, or not firing, but like having Whipple leave. And then their offense completely tanked in the successive year. So it's like, damn it, dude. Like, you're out here publicly saying like you didn't like the thing that made you guys good.
Kenny Pickett. Yeah. Why is he throwing it around all that time? Yeah. We'll be
you know who else I had on here, which was the win total one, was Luke Fickell, who I like a lot, but their win total is 6.5. If they go under, if they're 6-6, I think he's fine, but like the next year is definitely that kind of hot seat territory.
I have some questions there, like not doubts, but just some of the guys that he had on Cincinnati staff. Looking at some of the Cincinnati classes he signed in the last 2 years, once those guys had already left, pretty bad, which is another reason why I think Satterfield probably gets 3 or 4 years, in addition to the fact that Sat is a huge contract. I don't know. We'll see how it goes with Wisconsin.
I think it's like I think it is disorienting because Wisconsin spent so much time living that Big Ten West life as like a 10-win machine. And now you're, whoa. Wisconsin can't be 7-5, but that might be their reality because Wisconsin historically is not a juggernaut. They just have had, they've hit at these periods. They've been very opportunistic, stacking wins and competition for Big Ten titles. So we'll see. Definitely something to keep an eye on. One of the big questions in that middle pack of the Big Ten that we've had so much fun talking about.
Any G5s? I was thinking Marshall and East Carolina are the two.
Yeah.
I know some like young assistants I know have asked me about, like, do you think that's going to open? People thought Marshall was definitely opening last year, and then somehow it didn't. I don't know exactly what went down there, but
Sonny Cumbie at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, that's an obvious one.
Joe Moorhead at Akron, if things fall apart. You mentioned Mike Houston. I'm incredibly conflicted on it because I was so bullish on the hire off the jump, and now it's like, oh, I don't know. You know, you're in a conference that is getting easier, and the wins are not coming. Yeah, disappointing. We'll see. Hey, down at Fickell Stadium is a hard place to play, boy.
It is.
I tell you what.
SMU struggled for like 40 minutes last year there. You know?
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are 60 in a college football game, but for 40 minutes, they were really causing some problems.
This is true.
Oh man, you can. Hey, we got